welcome to BKL Nightly. This is the Game Day Recap edition. I'm Thad Brown. He's Josh Reed. He is Carl Jones. Caleb Carr will join us in a little while. An amazing one of the final games here at Highmark Stadium, and this is going to be an awesome memory for everybody who is here, us included. Bills win 39-34. Guys, for the second week in a row, the go-ahead touchdown on the Bills win scored by defensive back Christian Benford. On the field, it was just an entire flip of momentum, emotion. Give me your take on watching not only the Benford interception, but the Epinesa pick and the touchdown that followed that as well.
Well, my first impression was being up in the press box. There are certain plays every season, maybe one or two, where this place literally comes alive. You were down on the field. I'm sure you would agree with that. I mean, it's almost where you could feel it shake a little bit. I mean, it was just electric inside this building coming off of that one. We were talking about, looking at this team from a little wider angle and everything. Defensively, we've seen what we've seen a lot this season. They come out in the first half. They struggle. They struggle on third down. The struggle tackling wasn't quite there. I didn't see that as much. Then they make adjustments at halftime, and they looked much, much better. And they come out, look, Joe Burrow's going to score points. This offense is going to score points. They made just enough plays defensively and big ones to win the game.
I just want to say, it was just cool to be here. I know that sounds like all sentimental or whatever, but, the opportunity to another game, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, in a game that's wintry mix. I know I always talk about how I don't like the snow, but it is cool to add the atmosphere element of that. Just super dope, and the players at the peak of their powers, because that's what makes this game so dope, is when you have an all-pro on one side, another great player on the other side, and they're going haymaker, blow for blow. I mean, that was just so dope to see.
Yeah, 8 total touchdowns, right? I mean, that's exactly – but by the way, you want to go 8 total touchdowns. Wow. Not really. I mean, it's Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. That's kind of like, well, that sounds right.
I was standing there in the fourth quarter before all the craziness happened thinking it's 21-18. I've got Josh Allen on this sideline, Joe Burrow over there. This is going to be awesome. Just enjoy it. And it turned out better than that. You talk about how mad it was on the field. It was louder for both the Benford interception and the Epinesa interception than it was for the Matt Prater go-ahead kick in the Baltimore game week 1. The noise level that it reached for both those plays was pinned. It was 11 out of 10, and it was an incredible atmosphere for sure. And to see this game that really the Bengals had mostly, if not total control of, to just turn around on one play. Guys talked about how we never give up. We hear that all the time. Seeing it kind of happen in person, to me, was the most impressive part of this, that this game was probably the Bengals to lose, and the Bills took it. The Bills went out and took it, and it wasn't Josh Allen played a big part, but it was other guys, Christian Benford in particular, who made the big plays. Speaking of Josh Allen, 4 total touchdowns, 330 yards, game decided. Exactly. And if you guys want to talk about him after I ask this, that's fine. The thing that stood out to me was how the Bills took a weakness on the Bengals sideline on their defense at tight end and just eviscerated it. All 3 guys involved, 140 total yards, 2 touchdowns. Sometimes you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room to succeed. This was a good example of that.
Speaking of not trying to be the smartest guy in the room, how about this? The first half, Dalton Kincaid had 0 targets. Carl and I are sitting there, and I go, why would you have this guy active if you're not going to involve him? Involve him. Second half, they come out. They get him involved. He makes some big catches. One of them down this sideline was a big play. It was really good to see them, because I think going forward, we're going to need to see that group, that tight end group, play big, because we talk about where they're lacking in the wide receiver room. I think they can make up some of that in the tight end room.
All week, national media, local media was talking about the fact that the Bengals struggle to stop tight ends. Like you mentioned, you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. They're not good at it. Hammer it, pepper it until they stop it. There were times where I swear the Bengals didn't think that there was a tight end on the field. That's how wide open Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid were. But you know what? That is not your fault as Joe Brady. You pepper it until they stop it, and they never did. So huge kudos to Dawson Knox. Even Jackson Hawes uncovering himself in the end zone for that touchdown at the end of the game to seal everything. Joe Brady, the tight ends, Josh Allen for making it happen. All 3 of those guys made it happen.
That's a Jackson Hawes anytime touchdown, by the way. Thank you very much.
Probably a couple units for that for that bet, I would imagine. The Dawson Knox point of this is the one you guys were thinking, why isn't Dalton Kincaid getting targets? My thought was, well, Dawson Knox looks like he's handling just fine. Why do we have to go to somebody else? And for a guy who's been kind of not pushed aside, but certainly put into the background a little bit of the receiving group, to have this game where he was not only open all the time, but a weapon. He was competent. He was dependable. I was impressed that this Bills team has been dying for anyone to make plays in the receiving game. 88 was part of that today. Coming out of this game, I think I want to start with this. We talked before the game how this is a big game, but it's also the 4-8 Bengals. It's not like the Bills are that much closer to winning the division. They were probably in the wild card to begin with. Does this win change anything about the longer term, like you said, the big picture outlook of this team?
I don't think so, because I think that I go into this game, like you said, knowing that the Bengals, they were who we kind of thought they were, if you will. They were playing for their playoff lives, so we knew they were desperate to win this game because now they're just making vacation plans at this point. But they were a dangerous team coming in. By the way, think of this. We talk about the Bills' defense and everything and some of the teams they've lost to. Think about the quarterbacks they've beaten now. The list is crazy. It's Pat Mahomes. It's Baker Mayfield. It's Joe Burrow. That is wild.
I haven't vetted this, but I saw on X that Josh Allen is the first quarterback to beat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow in the same year.
Yeah, that's just wild. So, look, I think that defensively there's a ton of question marks still. They can't get to the quarterback, but they were missing Joey Bosa. And at one point, more than one point, I would look down on the field, Thad, and I saw A.J. Epinesa out there with Deion Walker, T.J. Sanders, and Jordan Phillips. That was their front four. Yeah. I'm pretty sure in an ideal world, going into the season, the Bills didn't say, those are the four guys that we need in order to stop Joe Burrow and the Bengals. They made just enough plays on that side of the ball. And at the end of the day, on the other side, you've got Josh Allen, and that gives you a chance to just beat anybody at any time, anywhere.
This does change things for me, and I think it's more of a process on how the Bills went about it. In particular, Christian Benford, A.J. Epinesa. This Bills defense, as currently constructed, isn't talented enough to go win games on their own. I think no one in this building would ever think that's the case. But sometimes when you play blackjack, you got to sometimes lean into the volatility. You know, sometimes we got to hit on a 16. Sometimes we got to double down on a 12 if you're feeling that risky. So you saw Sean McDermott in that second half, we're going to blitz everybody. We're going to turn the volatility. We're going to get beat. If we sit back, they're going to beat us. So you know what? If we're going to get beat, might as well throw some fire in the kitchen to make something happen. And the two times they did, we got a play right here on a pick six and another time where Jordan Phillips got his hand in the air. So listen, down to down, I don't think it's a good defense. No one will say it is. But if you're not going to be good, might as well have some fun doing it.
That's a good way to think about it. The thing that I thought of, and kind of in between you guys, is that I don't know if it's different, but this game spun on a dime. And I think it is a microcosm for a season can also spin on a dime. That things can change just that fast, even in the middle of December. Because this Bills season, I think we all would agree, is kind of careening towards another respectable but earlier than the fans would like exit from the postseason. This game proved to you that there are pieces on this team, whether it's Christian Benford or Josh Allen or even the tight ends, that can flip this season even if you don't expect it, even if you don't see it's coming, even if it looks like, as it looked like in this game, the Bills are going to head to a defeat. Whether it happens, I don't know, but I think the potential is absolutely there.
Yeah, and you mentioned the list of guys that are game changers. Let's add James Cook to that list, too. And, I mean, look, he had a big fumble going into the end zone. You talk about a guy who was probably very relieved that the Bills pulled this one out because they end up losing this game. We're going to be talking a lot about that James Cook fumble going into the end zone.
Yeah, and not a topic we should open up for this conversation. He does lead the NFL running back fumbles. That's his 5th this year. That's not good at all. Everything else, though, for the most part, was good from this. For Carl Jones and Josh Reed, I'm Thad Brown. Back to you. We'll have more on BKL Nightly after this. Welcome back to BKL Nightly, the Game Day Recap edition. I'm now joined by Caleb Carr. And Caleb, let's start right with the hero of this game, Christian Benford, a guy who over the last couple of weeks just continues to ascend in terms of how good of a corner he is. He has been the guy who's made the most plays for the Bills on defense, game-changing plays. And this was already someone we thought was an upper-level CB1. And, you know, right now he might be approaching top 15, top 10 realm when it comes to the NFL.
Yeah, you know, earlier in the season, we had conversations about just not seeing enough from him. And, you know, we've talked a little bit about how maybe it's because the Bills kind of do a zone-heavy type of scheme, and he doesn't have as many one-on-one opportunities. But, man, these past 2 weeks, he said, you know what, screw it. I don't care. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to make plays anyways. Obviously, last week, the fumble recovery for a touchdown, you know, we talked about how maybe he was in the right place, right time. Doesn't matter. He still did his job. Same thing with his interception last week. It was kind of an overthrow by a backup QB. Doesn't matter. We're not going to take the credit away from him. But tonight, man, that was an electric play. That was all him. There is absolutely no way that you can say right place, right time with the kind of plays that he was making tonight.
the one thing about that play, too, Burrow was, I don't want to say nonchalant, but there were a few of those throws where you're trying to get around a blitzing defender where he was kind of soft tossing, and then it worked for the most part. You do wonder if Benford got a read on that and said, if I get a chance, I might just be able to grab it out of the air. I don't have to worry about knocking it down. Either way, it was just a heck of an instinctive play, and a guy, I don't know if he's ever going to be that elite level shutdown corner, because like you said, that the Bills just don't ask him to do that, but you can still be a playmaker in a number of other ways. Now look, I think last week you might have been alluding to, he had a fumble return for a touchdown interception, and both of those were just kind of Johnny on the spot plays. This was not that. Regardless, the guy's made plays, the guy's making plays at an elite level. It's exactly what you want to get out of your finger quotes number one corner.
Yeah, today was just kind of one of those games where you're like, okay, wow, we really see now how much of a playmaker he can be. Because like I said, he hasn't really done that too much this past season, throughout the season. But tonight, man, he even said in his post-game press conference that it was against technique for him to jump. He wasn't supposed to jump on that play. He's supposed to stay on his feet. He's been taught to stay on his feet, but he said, something just told me I got to jump here. I can make a play, and he could, and he did.
And the thing about Benford, too, is his strength is being a technique guy. He's the one that's going to be moving the hips the right way, feet in the right spot, be in the right position. So even going off technique, I don't know if that's an improvement, but certainly it's a different approach for a guy who's been so good in the approach that he's used a lot before this game. Speaking of a guy that's pretty good with his approach, Josh Allen, more of the same, and it's hard to keep talking about him. I will tell you, as someone who's in the locker room, asking questions to these players all the time, I'm a professional at this, right? I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. Asking a different question about, gee Willie, wasn't Josh Allen awesome, is becoming difficult. This was another really good game. I didn't feel like he did anything that was out of the ordinary for him. But when you consider scrambling around on multiple fourth downs, finding touchdowns, converting a 3rd and 15 with your legs, yes, the defense totally opened up to make it easy for him. It still is just, I think we get to a point, maybe just us in the media, but I would imagine some Bills fans too, that what Josh Allen does all the time is almost assumed. It's a given. And when we look at this game, we rate this Josh Allen game against other Josh Allen games, not like against like what Geno Smith does, which is not anywhere close to what Allen did in this game.
Yeah, to your point about, trying to ask the guys in the locker room, I'm sure they're running out of ways to say that he's good too. There's just
right?
It's every week. He's doing something special. He's breaking some sort of record. I think he extended his record that he currently holds right now with another game. He's up to 50 games in his career with both a passing and rushing touchdown. I mean, he just continues to do it, and they're always in moments that you're like, this is what they need right now. Obviously, the defense made a huge play, but if it weren't for that 40-yard rushing touchdown, I don't know where they would have been. That 3rd and 15 is one of the biggest plays of the game, because you don't convert there, all of a sudden this Cincinnati Bengals offense that is hot, other than two kind of out of characteristic turnovers, other than that they were firing on all cylinders all night long. I don't know what happens if the Bengals get that ball back. We might be having a different conversation here, but they didn't, because Josh Allen stepped up when he needed to, just like he really has all season. We haven't really seen him have to put the cape on that much because of how heavy they've leaned on James Cook. And even when he does have to put the cape on, it seems like the guys around him aren't just up to the level to make the plays that they need him to. So he said, all right, I'll just do it myself.
Yeah, there have been 2 Bills offensive games lately. It's either the one where the Bills rush for 4,000 yards and they don't need Josh Allen, or the games where they desperately need Josh Allen, but they ask him to do so much he can't do it and they lose. And this one was, one of the few in the middle where Allen could get this team across the finish line. And look, fair caveat to bring up here, we don't need to discuss it, but yeah, this Bengals defense is just as abysmal as advertised, and that certainly made everything a little bit easier. But regardless, it doesn't take away what Josh Allen did in this game. Let's move a little further in the backfield here, because James Cook had another really solid game, I think 80-something yards, but he fumbled on the way to the end zone. And were it not for the Christian Benford play and the A.J. Epinesa play after that, that probably would have been the turning point of this game, because you could see it kind of going back and forth, kind of whoever had the ball last was going to win. When Cook fumbles, that gave the Bengals control in the second half, and were it not for the interceptions, that's probably how this game would have ended.
Yeah, Cook ended with 18 carries, 80 yards. He did also bring in 2 catches for 31 yards. He had a few big plays. You know, like he found a couple holes. The running lanes weren't really there all night, but he found some holes throughout the night. But yeah, that fumble, especially where it came just on the goal line, that's one of the worst ones we've seen from him this year, because that's just, it was such a tough drive. And then, you know, him almost scoring a few plays before that, and then it turns into, it was actually almost a fumble. That was just a whole roller coaster of a drive, whole roller coaster of a few plays, and it would have been nice to see him get in, to be like, okay, even though he almost fumbled, he's still okay, and that's not what happened. He fumbles right on the goal line. I had some confidence when that happened. Obviously, you know, that happens, and you're like, where's this going to go now? I had some confidence because of the drive before for the Bengals, Buffalo had held them to a 3-and-out. But then they did the exact opposite of that, letting them go 12 plays, 80 yards, and scoring a touchdown. So when they put up that touchdown to start the fourth quarter, and they went up 10 points, it really was looking like that fumble was going to be the turning point.
The thing with Cook is he's made so many good plays this year and leveled up in so many other ways. I don't want to totally get hung up on the fact that fumbling is an issue. We talked about it on the first part of the show, though. 5 fumbles this year for a running back is, unless some other running back had 7 today or something, that's the most in the NFL this year. And this is a guy that, you know, not too long ago was having trouble making catches on throws. Just dropping balls was an issue for James Cook a couple years ago. Overall, look, he's still a great back, and where he's come from in the last 2 years is incredible. But this is now, it's not only 5 fumbles this year, but I believe it's 4 fumbles in the last 6 games. This is becoming not a talking point, but certainly something to keep an eye on going forward here.
Yeah, and to your point, he did have that, you know, kind of stretch where he seemed to be dropping everything that was thrown his way. And I'm not going to say he's, you know, this electric receiving back, but he's become a reliable target from out of the backfield. He has at this point. So that at least gives me some hope that, listen, he had a problem in the past. He put in the work in the offseason and he fixed it. That, hey, maybe this is just a fluke season, or maybe he's going to, you know, get back into the training room and he's going to be able to fix that this offseason. You know, I'm not, obviously right now in this current moment, it's concerning as the Bills try to make a playoff push that one of these fumbles could end up being the turning point that we thought today's was. But like for his career moving forward, I'm not too concerned about where he's going to go.
You actually just made the point. Fluke season. It happens. I think people need to understand that just because a guy reaches a certain level doesn't mean they stay there. Sean McDermott talks about all the time, usually with young players, that when you grow, you don't grow directly like this. It can go up and down. Well, that happens for established players too. Josh Allen's not having as good a year as he did last year. So I think for now, we just look at this Cook season, at least the last month or so, as it's a concern, but not anything that changes the overall opinion of the player. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Look, Shaq Thompson, I mean, the guy just keeps making plays. This is the 4th or 5th game I think he started this year. And with Terrell Bernard out, the defense didn't play great, but the Bengals offense is going to do that. Regardless, I did notice 45 left, right, and center, especially in the first half. Oh,
yeah, that first half, I mean, just the first couple drives, it seemed like he was all over the place. He's just, I mean, I keep saying that I feel like a broken record. He's just so reliable and so consistent. You know, he had a big tackle for loss today, which was one of a big highlight play for him. He doesn't have too many of those big highlights, but he's going to consistently wrap up. He had a really nice open field tackle. He had a QB hit. He ended with 6 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 QB hit. Just, you know, a really, nothing that like makes you make your eyes like huge and you're like, wow, this guy's like an all-pro linebacker, but something that you look at and you're like, if he does that week in and week out, that's really, really good.
Another good part of what the defense did today, and really those parts are going to be far and few between, as we've alluded to, but I did like the adjustments they made, especially on 3rd down late in the game. First 3 drives of the game, the Bengals go right down the field 3 times for 3 touchdowns. I like the fact that they started to get aggressive, sent some blitzes. The Benford interception is a part of that. The Benford sack is a part of that. It was a smart adjustment. Now, look, Sean McDermott said afterward that, hey, there's only so many things you can do, and sending blitzes was one of them. But regardless, it was the right call. It was a smart call, and help this defense at least get into the game a little bit and not just be the doormat that's getting walked over as they were the first 3 drives of this game?
Yeah, I believe in the first half they ended 7 of 8 for third down. Well, that's Cincinnati converting 7 of 8 third downs against the Buffalo defense. Not something that you want at all. And third down defense has kind of been a thing that we've gone back to multiple times this season. It's kind of popped up here or there as a problem. And tonight it definitely was. I mean, Cincinnati is one of those offenses. Like you said, they're a great offense. They're going to do this to pretty much just about any defense in the league. So I don't want to, read too into this. But when you have a team like that continually is setting themselves up in 3rd and longs, you have to take advantage of those as a defense, and Buffalo just wasn't.
The Bills came into this game number 1 in passing yards per game allowed. Now, we've talked about how good the Bengals offense is. So this was also the day where the college football playoff was announced. Teams go up and down in rankings, right? So if the Bills came in as number 1, and I'm not saying that everybody thought they were the number 1 pass defense in the NFL, but whatever. If they came in as number 1, without looking at the stats and really making an objective assessment, where would you put the Bills 1 through 32 in terms of what you think their pass defense ranks after getting tested by what's probably the best passing offense in the NFL?
Following the game, I would say they might have dropped a spot or 2. But honestly, Joe Burrow...
No, I don't mean statistically. I mean just, like, in your opinion, how good a pass defense do you think they are?
Probably.
So I'll let you think about
15,
it. I'm going to put them. Yeah, that's about where I was going to say. I was going to put them in the 12 or 13 range. I think there's still talent there. And look, to be fair, Joey Bosa didn't play in this game. That certainly impacts the pass defense. So I think they're still upper half. I think there's some reason to be concerned because the Bills have not seen great passing offenses this year. Certainly not like the one they faced today. But regardless, I still think this is a better than average passing defense group.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, Christian Benford, like we said, we talked about the great day that he had. I'm not sure, you might have a different perspective on this, but from watching the broadcast, it seemed like he was kind of following around Jamar Chase for a lot of the day. And Chase was actually shut down for most of the day. I think he ended with only a few catches, 5 catches for 44 yards Chase did. But one of the top receivers in the league. Now, the guy who went way off was T. Higgins. T. Higgins was absolutely cooking Maxwell Harrison and Trey White. Higgins obviously ending with 6 receptions, 92 yards, and 2 touchdowns, one of those being on White, the other one being just bully ball on Maxwell Harrison, where that was just kind of I'm bigger than you, I'm going to go up and I'm going to catch this football. The passing defense as a whole, they looked pretty well today, but Maxwell Harrison and Trey White, they definitely struggled against the big T. Higgins.
In terms of the Jamar Chase thing, I talked with Carl Jones a little bit off camera, and from his view in the press box, he thought that the Bills seemed to be shading a lot of coverage his way, a lot of safety help over the top. In other words, Carl's assessment was the Bills decided they weren't going to let Jamar Chase beat them, and someone else was going to have to. And like you said, T. Higgins darn near did that. So I think, back off on giving flowers to the Bills defense for the Jamar Chase numbers by itself. But if the goal was to take Jamar Chase away, for the most part, they did at least do that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. As you said, they said, we're not going to let Chase beat us. T. Higgins did beat them. It felt like whenever they needed a play, T. Higgins was the guy that they went to. And, I mean, he was making even catches that were out of bounds. He had a one-handed grab that he ended up being out of bounds. That was still a ridiculous grab. And this is a guy that's coming off of concussion protocol. I definitely was not expecting the day that he had, even against this passing defense.
Real quick to wrap up, a couple of coaching things. First, Zach Taylor with his challenges, I was incredibly impressed. Knowing that Chase Brown was in, granted it was at the 1, you kind of feel like he's wasting a challenge there. Regardless, getting that one right and saving his team the effort of having to actually score a touchdown was good. The James Cook one on the corner. You got to understand, Caleb, I'm standing right in front of James Cook as he gets knocked out of bounds. Me and the other photographers on the sideline looked at each other thinking, what could he possibly be challenging? And he darn near got that one right, too. If the ball had been a little further in bounds, that's a James Cook fumble before the James Cook fumble happened. So I want to give Zach Taylor some props for that. On the Bills side, I hated the Joe Brady fake call to Josh Allen on the first drive of the game on 3rd down that led to the field goal. You are dominating this defense early. Just run something straight at them. You don't have to get tricky. On the flip side, even though it ended in a sack, I loved the play action out of the 2-minute warning At the very end of the game, you had been killing the Bengals on that play all game long. Team was probably looking for a run. Hey, give them credit, they guessed pass. But I thought that was absolutely the right call, even though it didn't work.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with the Zach Taylor stuff. That the James Cook play on the pylon, I agree with you even from the broadcast in getting all the different angles that they were showing us. I was like, what could you possibly be challenging? And like you said, he still almost had that go in his favor. I agree with you that I do like although it was a sack, I agree that I do like that play at the end. I like, getting a little aggressive. It's a play that, like you said, had been working. It looked well. And it doesn't matter that I got sacked because Josh Allen is Josh Allen.
Always helps to have that get out of jail card for sure. All right, that's going to do it for us for this edition of BKL Nightly Game Day Recap. Next week, the Bills head to Foxborough to take on the Patriots. It's the big one. We'll see if the Bills can stay alive in the division race. For Caleb Carr and Carl Jones and Josh Reed, I'm Thad Brown. Thanks very much for watching. Remember, you can always find this program on Spotify, on YouTube, and on Apple Podcasts. Of course, you can also find it on Rochester First and WIVB+. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching.